Hello, hello. So you are finally starting week one. Hopefully you went through all of the intro process, how to get started. And if you ever have any questions with those things, feel free to reach out to me, text me, shoot me a DM on Instagram, or message me through the app. So this is going to be week one overview. We're going to talk a little bit about intuitive eating, the intuitive eating grocery list, so how to set up your own, some weight training basics, form, breathing, mind to muscle connection, and then also dive into some intuitive eating recipes as well. So a little bit of an overview for intuitive eating. Intuitive eating is based on your intuition. So listening to your hunger and your fullness cues, there is nothing off limits. And we're also taking the labels off of food as well. So there's no good food, there's no bad food. Food is fuel, period. And our bodies use all food the same. It views it as fuel. And so that's why we want to kind of teach ourselves that. And everything is healthy in moderation. So you don't want to stop yourself from eating your favorite foods. As I say, if you restrict food, then you're restricting happiness. And it's kind of a circulation phase. So if you restrict, then you'll end up binging. And this is a process we're trying to avoid at all costs. So with intuitive eating comes 3 simple rules of thumb. I've come up with these based on my experience and the experience with my clients. So number 1 is consuming 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. 2, drinking a gallon of water a day. And 3, consuming at least 1 serving of fruit and or veggies in most meals. So instead of focusing on those big numbers, we'll probably start out by breaking it up a little bit so that we focus on 1 step at a time rather than the entire staircase. And an example down here to the right, a basic dieter would think of a piece of pizza as trying to avoid it, and that avoidance will lead to overeating at dinner, trying to satisfy that craving that was just pushed under the rug. But an intuitive eater would approach it as wanting a slice of pizza and eating it. Therefore, after the craving is fulfilled and they're less hungry and are less likely to eat more. So why the 3 rules of thumb? The first one, consuming 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. First of all, what does that look like? So if I were 120 pounds, I want to consume 120 grams of protein. That may seem like a shit ton, but we'll talk a little bit about how to implement some tricks in order to hit that large number. And our bodies use protein to build back the muscle that is torn during exercise. So when you're exercising, you are literally tearing your muscle fibers apart, and protein after you work out is what brings those muscle fibers back stronger, as well as rest. And it also helps us maintain the muscle we already have. Then drinking a gallon of water a day, that'll be 128 fluid ounces. An easy way to figure out how many bottles you need to drink a day is to look at the current water bottle you're using. So mine is 20 ounces, and just take 128 divided by 20. I'll do the math really fast. 128 divided by 20. That means I'll have to drink 6.5 of these a day. And that's an easy way to kind of break it up based on the water bottle you're currently using. And our bodies are made up of 80% water. So we need to continuously replenish that water throughout the day in order for our systems to properly function. And if we don't consume enough water on a daily basis, our bodies will go into what I call FU mode and essentially hold on to as much water as it can because it doesn't know when it'll get more water the next time. So it'll hold on to all of it. And that's what's going to result in bloating and water retention. Lastly, water naturally detoxifies your organs, keeps skin healthy because skin is our largest organ on the body, and it also enhances energy. Then lastly, consuming 1 serving of fruit and or veggies in most meals will allow our bodies to consume enough micronutrients, which are vitamins and minerals, again, to enhance the functionality of our bodies. So I'm sure you guys have heard of macronutrients, and that's kind of the higher level ahead of micronutrients. So macronutrients consist of carbs, fats, and proteins. So we'll talk a little bit about what they are and what they do for our bodies. So firstly, carbs. A lot of people think carbs are the enemy, when in reality, they are our main energy source. Our bodies need carbs in order to sustain energy for everyday activity and exercise. So if you try to restrict carbs, you'll likely feel very fatigued. You won't feel like you have enough energy in the gym, and you won't feel as focused as well. So with that being said, there are two types of carbs. There are simple carbs and complex carbs. Simple carbs are the fast digesting carbs, primarily from sugar, which are best consumed pre and post workout. So that would be like your white grains, that would be candy, that would be things that aren't whole wheat, essentially, or vegetables. And then complex carbs take a little longer to digest because they have more fiber. And our bodies don't digest fiber, and that's why it keeps us so much fuller for longer. And these are best to consume outside of your pre and post workout meals. So that would be like whole wheat bread, that would be brown rice, veggies, anything whole wheat, whole grain, that fits under that category. And then fats, they essentially bring nutrients into the body for our functions or for our processes to function properly. Sometimes it can be hard to decipher between good fats and bad fats, but something to really focus on is oils like olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, nuts, nut butters, and things of that sort. Some fats that aren't quote unquote as nutrient dense would be saturated fats. So those are found in a lot of fried foods, highly processed, and those saturated fats will build up your arteries and keep the body from functioning properly if you consume an insane amount. But again, everything is good in moderation. Nothing's off limits. There's no good food. There's no bad food. Food is fuel, period. And then lastly, protein, again, is our body's primary building block for muscle growth and maintenance. Now, going into liquid calories and alcohol, a lot of people tend to overlook this, but liquid calories do have a role, obviously, in what you consume on a daily basis. So you have to treat sodas, coffee, alcohol, orange juice, any types of juices the same as a meal. And just to give a little example, a regular Coke or regular Pepsi has 70 grams of sugar, which is equivalent to 70 grams of those simple carbs we just talked about, which is essentially equivalent to a serving and a half of pasta. But the main part of that is the body doesn't use those simple sugars as it would the same as pasta, because there's no nutrient backing to it, if that makes sense. So it's essentially just empty calories. But if you do like soda and you do like the carbonation aspect, you could always try to opt for seltzer water, diet soda. Same thing goes with coffee. Instead of sugar, you can use a sugar sub. Instead of cream, you can use skim milk, and kind of just experiment with combinations that you like. So that way you can save your calories and stuff for food that'll actually help you perform and keep you energized throughout the day and through your workouts. And then lastly, alcohol. So alcohol secretly packs on a lot of calories. It's actually its own macronutrient, but a lot of times people will kind of categorize it as a carb. Just to put it into retrospect, a shot of vodka is 68 calories. So if you're having like 10 shots, that builds up a little bit. And that's with no chaser. So you just kind of have to be mindful when it comes to drinking, especially high sugar drinks, beer, because you can secretly consume like 1,000 extra calories that are empty that do absolutely nothing. Like alcohol calories do not do anything for the body. It just kind of sits there and your body doesn't know what to do with it. And then also keep out for the drunchies, because that happens when you drink a lot. So you can always use this little guide to the right that'll kind of give you an overview of what some low calorie drinks looks like, so you can focus on using your calories for food. And then setting up your intuitive eating grocery list. This is the easiest way to do it. So you can use your phone, you can set out on a piece of paper, notepad, whatever, and split everything up into 3 separate categories. So split your paper up into 3 columns. Your first column is going to be protein, second is produce, and then third is other. So protein, we're going to choose 2 to 3 options for every breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. Protein being meat, beans, legumes, soy, dairy, and things of that sort. Then for the produce category, we're going to choose 3 to 4 veggies and 3 to 4 fruits. It could be fresh, it can be frozen, it can be whatever you want under the sun. There really is no big difference between fresh and frozen, besides the fact that one lasts longer. And then lastly, for the other category, that's going to be your sauces, condiments, soul foods, so like Oreos, cookies, whatever you're feeling, chips, and other grains and carbs you're feeling for that specific week. And then below it is a grocery list example. So some ideas for breakfast: eggs, turkey kielbasa, things like that. We'll have an entire link to grocery ideas, meal ideas, and everything under the sun when it comes to that. Lunches: protein bars, protein powder, deli meat, tuna. For dinners: extra lean ground beef, shrimp, chicken breast. These are just some examples. You don't have to stick to it. If you have any specific questions when it comes to protein options, text me, DM me, whatever, and we can figure out something specifically for you that you'll enjoy. Veggies and fruits, again, frozen, fresh, whatever you're feeling. Those are just some examples. Other: rice, whole wheat bread, coffee, light mayo, no added sugar, chocolate chips, buffalo sauce, Oreos, milk of choice, and stuff like that. Now this just goes into detail about a little bit more of the meal ideas. So high protein breakfasts, lunches, dinners, snacks, condiments. And remember, you can always switch out a certain protein, a certain veggie, a certain grain or carb, or switching out sauce, condiment, whatever. These are just some examples. These are also on the intuitive eating document that's connected to week 1. And there are also a bunch of other recipes on the Pinterest link as well. So you can go through a bunch of those, come up with some ideas. These ones are really, really simple, don't take too long to make, especially if you're focused on convenience and the convenient factor. So now we're going to kind of transition into the basics of weight training. So before I go into the 3 points I want to hit, I kind of just want to go over the benefits overall. So why weight train? Why not only do cardio? Why not only do body weight? Why weight train? Why strength train? So the biggest dub when it comes to weight training is the increase in muscle mass. And the reason we want that muscle mass is because muscle burns 3 times more calories than fat. So the more muscle you have, the more calories you're going to burn on a daily basis, even when you're sleeping, even when you're just chilling on the couch, literally 24/7. It also increases bone density and strength, so you're less likely to break some bones, increases your range of motion and flexibility. So although it is good to focus on range of motion or mobility and flexibility outside of weight training automatically works on those things while you're doing it. Strengthen mental health, elevated body image. Obviously, once you start packing on that muscle, you're going to solidify a concrete figure. Lower inflammation, it boosts your metabolism, improves posture, and improved sleep as well. Now to kind of get into the 3 points I was talking about before, form and breathing is number one. So for form, to ensure you have proper form for each exercise, the important thing to pay attention to is the angles and lines that your body parts and your body is making overall during any given exercise. So the two things I really like to focus on are straight lines. So if you look at that picture to the right, how the difference between the first and second deadlift and the first and second squat is the lines that their backs are making. That's what you really want to focus on, is those straight lines. Same thing with their lower half. So you see how their butt to their knees and then their knees to their ankles are in a straight line. If any of those positions were out of a straight line, then that's how you know your form is probably not strong and not proper. And then alongside the straight lines, focusing on good posture is also going to help you with good form overall. So the easiest way to ensure you have good posture is to keep your core tight, as if someone were to come around and punch you in the gut. That's how tight your core should be during any given exercise. That's also how you're going to engage your core even more, working it more rather than just hitting it during ab circuits or ab exercises. So core is tight, chest is up, shoulders are back. That's how you know you have proper form. That's something you can do before going into every single exercise, every single set, to ensure that you're hitting the right muscles. And then for breathing, in order to use breathing to your advantage and correlate it directly with the exercise you're working on, it's important to breathe out during the hardest or most challenging part of a movement. So that's usually on your way back down to the starting position of the exercise. So for example, coming back up from the bottom of a squat, releasing back down during the top of bicep curl, or releasing your arms back up after a lat pull down. And then another example right here would be a barbell bench press or dumbbell bench press. You're inhaling as you come down, and then you're exhaling as you come up. And that'll just strengthen the movement overall, allow your muscles to compact together as you go back to the starting position. It just helps you feel like the movement is stronger. And then lastly, mind to muscle connection. So this is probably one of the most important aspects of training to ensure that you are hitting the proper muscles and to ensure that you're actually feeling the exercise working. So mind to muscle connection is literally thinking about and squeezing the specific muscles that you're trying to target during any given exercise. So mind to muscle connection should be focused on during every single exercise, every single set, every single rep. And if you've ever wondered why you're not feeling your butt cheeks being worked during a lunge, or why you're feeling your lower back being hit during a squat, then it's probably because you're not focusing on that mind to muscle connection and focusing on the specific muscles that are being worked during that exercise. So a couple examples would be squeezing your butt cheeks during a lunge. So if you go into it and you're not focused on anything, then you might feel the lunge more so in your calves, more so in your back, more so in your quads rather than your butt. So you really have to focus on that one specific muscle. Squeezing your entire lower half during a squat. If you are feeling it in your lower back or your core, squeeze your lower half. And then lastly, squeezing your belly button into your stomach during a crunch. So if you aren't feeling your core being worked during a core exercise, then it's probably because you're not actually focusing on your core. Remember, keeping it tight as if someone were to come around and punch you in the gut. That's how you create that mind to muscle connection. And then here are a few easy ways to improve and practice your mind to muscle connection. One, focusing on the muscle, not the movement. We kind of went over that already. Literally visualizing the specific muscle or muscles you're working. So if we're going into that lunge, you are literally thinking about your butt cheeks being hit every single set. Butt cheeks, butt cheeks, butt cheeks, every single rep. Slowing down the reps, so really controlling it, maybe doing 2 to 3 seconds down, 2 to 3 at the bottom, 2 to 3 up. That's really going to initiate that mind to muscle connection. Having a partner touch the muscles you're supposed to be working. So if you're doing tricep push downs, having them touch your triceps that'll force you to focus on the triceps. So you're not feeling them in your shoulders, feeling them in your back, feeling them in your biceps. Then lastly, flexing between sets. That way you're keeping the specific muscle in your mind. And then the bottom right little picture just kind of gives a more in-depth visual of what it'll look like. So we'll use the bicep curl, for example. When you're focusing on bringing the rep back up to the starting position, that's when you're going to squeeze the specific muscle. And then when you're focusing on bringing it away from the starting position, or we switch that up. When you're focusing on bringing it up from the starting, you're squeezing. When you're focusing on bringing it back down to the starting, then you're controlling it. And then at the top of the movement, so that squeeze would be holding it to really emphasize the mind to muscle. And if you have any questions when it comes to intuitive eating, when it comes to these 3 training principle basics, breathing, form, mind to muscle connection, reach out to me. I can go more in depth. We can focus on the specifics, and we can really hit what's working. But hope this helped. Hope you're ready for your first week. I am so excited to hear about your wins and hear about how your first training sessions and how your meals are going to go.